Welcome to Vegetarianism, the noble way of living. My name is Toni, I'm from Beauty Without Cruelty, and I'm delighted to be able to say that I've been vegan for 5 years now, or otherwise known as strict vegetarian.
For 35 years, Beauty Without Cruelty South Africa has been defending the rights of voiceless innocent animals. Thanks to the tireless efforts of their dedicated team, some animal welfare legislation are in place for the country. Toni is a passionate, vibrant, ethical vegan who runs on high-octane energy. As a steadfast campaigner for animal rights, she serves as the Media Liaison Representative for BWC. For several years, she has been the driving force behind most of BWC's campaign. In October 2010, she organized the first ever Veggie Pride Parade in Cape Town and is still active at all levels in raising awareness to the cruel suffering animals are enduring. She regularly speaks at schools and other institutions, as well as writes letters to the press about animal issues. Since coming on board at BWC, she has taken the organization to a whole new level. Today and Friday, April 1st, Toni will show us how to make a wonderful vegan faux gras and a no-knead bread, perfect for this Lent season.
Right, I'm now going to be making a faux gras. Foie gras is the product of force-feeding ducks or geese until their liver expands to up to 10 times. It's inhumane, it's cruel, it's unnecessary. There are millions of things out there that taste absolutely fabulous and don't require any suffering on the part of anybody. What I'm going to be doing is cooking up a pate that will go with the bread that we're busy baking. And this is with mushrooms, preferably brown mushrooms because they have so much more flavour. Button mushrooms are wonderful and they're great as a standby, but it's worth paying a little bit extra to buy a mushroom that's got more intense flavour and a bit more body. I'm going to be using dried mushrooms as well because dried mushrooms add to the flavour and the texture. Some herbs, some onion. It's all going to be simmered in some rooibus tea, which I'm just going to make now. The kettle's just boiled, so about a cup with 2 tea bags so that it's a bit stronger. And of course we're going to be using Himalayan salt, and to flavour that as well, we're going to be adding some balsamic vinegar and soya sauce and enriching it with a little bit of nutritional yeast. Nutritional yeast flakes are absolutely fabulous because you can sprinkle them over breakfast cereals, you can add them to breads or to dishes because they've got very little taste, but they do have a slight cheesy flavour. That's going to stand in the meantime. I'm going to just chop up the mushrooms and they're all going to be blended up later on anyway. The original recipe calls for walnuts, which you soak and roast. I'm not using walnuts today, I'm using cashews. Cashews give a far nicer texture when they're blended up or blitzed together. They give a far more creamy effect. So I've taken ready roasted cashew nuts that have been salted, and I'm busy soaking them in some warm water in the meantime. About a cup or so. It's over here. So those are busy soaking and they will soften. And then I'm going to add them to the pan later on with the mushrooms and the onions and the herbs. And that will simmer down until all the liquid has been evaporated. It will result in an intensely flavoured, delicious pate that would be a pleasure to place on any table around the world. I'm going to just squish with these tea bags. What I am going to do is switch this on in the meantime. What I also need to do quickly, while those are warming up, is just grab some mushrooms and put them into warm water as well. Again, use whatever dried mushrooms come to hand. The recipe calls for chanterelles. I happen to have some chanterelles, but I'm also going to put some meringue in, which is a nice thing about the meringue mushrooms when you can try them fresh, is that they don't shrink. like other mushrooms do, which is really great. You don't need a lot of dried mushroom because they've got such an intense flavour, which is the joy of them. And I'll chop them up a little bit later after I've added the water. And they've absorbed it and gone moist. And I'm just going to chop up an onion. If you find you've got a red onion, if you want to use shallots, I'm quite sure you could use leeks as well. Anything from the onion family. These are supposedly called sweet onions. They still bring tears to my eyes, so I'm not quite sure how true that is. That goes in there. I need some sage, about 2 tablespoons of sage. The nice thing about sage is deep fry them, and just for a couple of seconds, and they go wonderfully crispy. And if you can control yourself and not eat them all, they make a wonderful garnish. And the flavour is just absolutely divine. A really nice thing to do is to take pasta, any shape that suits you. Sage leaves that you've deep fried, preferably in olive oil, but again, use whatever you've got at hand. Okay, these are nicely chopped. I'm going to add my tea. So the nice thing is also that this really is an oil-free or fat-free recipe. I don't think anybody's going to complain about that. The mushrooms still need a little bit longer. And this I'm going to turn up a little now so that that can simmer. I'm just going to get a spoon out of here. Again, some good grindings of Himalayan salt. It's worth Googling and looking it up. It regulates blood pressure. If you have digestive difficulties and you need to rebalance your salts and so on, you can use it in place of that. It of course has a far nicer flavour, that's not as intense. And I do have white pepper in the kitchen. I think I've used it once. I've gone back to just using black pepper because it's got far more flavour. Right, that's going to stand for a while. I'm going to leave that for now and let it simmer. And we'll come back to this later. Right, so we've chopped up our herbs. This has now settled nicely and has reduced quite well. I'm going to add the herbs to this. I'm going to grate a little bit of nutmeg in here. So, there's the whole nutmeg, about half a teaspoon. And it adds a depth of flavour unlike anything else. I'm just going to add the balsamic vinegar and the soy sauce. And of course our nutritional yeast, which we dare not forget. And add just a little depth of flavour to it. And a couple of tablespoons will do it. And a couple of teaspoons of this. It's always worth spending a little more on decent balsamic vinegar rather than buying a no-name brand. As with all other things, you get what you pay for. That will add a gentle piquancy to it. The soy sauce will add a bit of a depth of flavour. And we want 1 tablespoon of this. Maybe just a smidge more. And I'm going to add my garlic. Now, I didn't add the garlic earlier. Quite simply, because very often it can burn and then it goes bitter. And you can be wonderfully industrious and go and buy garlic, and you can then chop the cloves yourself. Right, this is now going to be blitzed down into a pate. And then while that's cooling, I'm going to drain the cashew nuts to add to it. And I'm going to make the agar to set it. And we'll see later. Now I'm just going to chop up the mushrooms that were soaking earlier on. Do them nice and fine. Although it will also again be completely mushed up into a pate once we start blitzing. And just stir this through. We've got our herbs in there and our nutmeg. And I firmly believe that you can never have too much rosemary. So I have added more than what the recipe calls for. And this you'll set with agar. Agar is a seaweed jelly. It's a setting agent. That's actually the right term. I'm going to let that cool slightly, and I'm going to drain the cashew nuts, and we're going to blitz all of this together. And we'll set it with the vegetable jelly into a wondrous pate. Okay, what I've done now is I've added the mushroom mixture and the cashew nuts, which I drained into my wonderful bowl. And I've added 1.5 cups of water to this. I'm going to blitz this into a paste, and I'm going to let it stand. And over here, I've got 1 cup of water in a pot, and I'm busy warming this up because I'm going to add a good couple of teaspoons of agar to this, which we discussed earlier, to this, and that is going to help set the mixture later on. So I'm just going to do this quickly. Now, depending on the kind of blender that you have, it might leave it slightly chunky. This one still leaves it with a little bit of texture. I quite like a bit of mouthfeel to a pate. Other people like a smooth and silky feel to their ingredients. And if you use a blender or you use a wand, whisk, whatever works for you. I'm going to let that cool slightly. Okay, I've got my water boiling, or to low gentle simmer. I'm going to add a few spoons of agar. I prefer to add a little more rather than a little less, because you can make sure that way that it sets nicely. And I'm going to do heap teaspoons, don't tell anybody. I know you're always supposed to use wonderfully gentle, flat spoons. This you need to stir for about 7 minutes to ensure that it is properly dissolved. Just one more stir, and then I'm going to add it to my mushroom mixture. So, that's that. I'm going to add that to this quickly. Oops. And I'm going to pour this into my 2 containers. Right. They will cool down and they will set. They will set at room temperature. Once they cool down completely, I'm going to put them into the fridge to firm up. I'll see what it's like later.
We'll be back with Toni on Friday, April 1st, to see how our vegan faux gras has turned out. Toni will also show us how to make her special savory olive bread without any kneading. Coming up now is Between Master and Disciple, here on Supreme Master Television. Blessed be your selfless hearts and kind deeds. For more information on Beauty Without Cruelty, South Africa, and defending animal rights, please visit www.bwcsa.co.za.
For more details, please visit www.suprememastertv.com. /VEG.